Hello. So this is just a little short, hopefully, discussion about just the nuts and bolts of what acting is. It is intended to give sort of a foundation of the work that we do in my acting classes. And yeah, so it's just a little bit that some people off the street might not know or might not think about when they think about what acting is. So what is acting? Acting is doing. That's why it's called acting and not feeling. It is not about feeling emotions, although you may very well, and you probably will. It is definitely not about pretending or trying to feel emotions. The audience does not give a load of garbage what you are feeling. They care about what they are feeling. So what you are literally feeling is unimportant. However, you will feel some stuff, so don't get too confused yet. Before we get into the specifics of what I'm sort of talking about here, I want to give you a very, very brief history lesson about acting. So back in the long, long ago, the predominant genre of theater was melodrama. The per capita, more people went to melodrama than went to see any other form of theater ever in the world. Now I'm talking about back in the 1800s, perhaps beginning in the middle of the 1700s, but definitely the 1800s until TV and film and television came around, when theater was the dramatic media. If you went to, you didn't go to the movies, you went to a play, you probably went to see a melodrama. And it is exactly what you think a melodrama is. The evil bad character with the big Snidely Whiplash mustache. The Snidely Whiplash was actually a character from a melodrama. The damsel in distress tied to the railroad tracks, and the hero comes along and saves the day. Characters were completely good or completely bad. And it always ended up with a happy ending, because that way we knew who to root for and we knew we were going to win at the end. So melodrama was the predominant style of play that you would see. Melodramatic acting is just like you would think it was. All very big, all very declamatory, no attempt at being realistic, no, it was not realism. Realism was not a genre yet. It was all about, and even when you look back at the history of acting until realism became a thing, it was, even before melodrama, it was largely about sort of standing in the middle of the stage and barking your lines out to the back of the audience. And, if we went to see a show in Shakespeare's day, we would probably be pretty surprised. It would not be realistic at all. It would be all about the voice, all about commanding the stage, all about so anyway, you get my point. Somewhere around the late 1800s, the turn of the 20th century, two Russian guys sort of got together and changed acting as we know it. These two Russian guys are Anton Chekhov and Konstantin Stanislavski. I didn't write Konstantin down because everybody spells it differently. But anyway, Stanislavski is his last name. Some people even spell his last name differently. So these two guys were working together in Russia, turn of the 20th century, and they got together as straight white entitled men do and decided, hey, we can change everything and we can do this stuff. Basically, Chekhov is the playwright, and the guy at the top there with that awesome handlebar mustache, and the guy below him, that's Stanislavski. Chekhov had written a play called The Seagull, and it was performed somewhere, and it flopped. It flopped because Anton Chekhov was writing very realistic plays at a time when everybody was used to acting in melodramas. So, in Anton Chekhov's plays, instead of your lines being, help me, or I will get you, or that kind of stuff, the lines now are like, pass the salt. Just normal everyday conversation. Now, the reason Chekhov was such a success was because he endowed all those subtle little lines with massive amounts of subtext. So there was still a lot going on, but it wasn't this huge overblown style of play, and it didn't require a huge overblown style of acting. So the first company that produced The Seagull did it in a very, melodramatic way, and it flopped. And Chekhov decided he was never going to write plays again. Well, Stanislavski got a hold of it, and he convinced Chekhov to let him produce it with a very realistic style of acting, and it was a massive hit. They changed everything. The Stanislavski and his another one of his homies, to establish the Moscow Art Theater, and they did plays in this new realistic style, and they toured Europe, and they changed everything. So that was, so Stanislavski is the father of all acting techniques that we think of today, in one way or the other. Now, you may wonder, let me follow through on that thought. All actor training today is either in service to teach what Stanislavski taught, or it is directly opposed to Stanislavski. But even the stuff that's directly opposed, by virtue of it opposing it, validates Stanislavski's practice in his teaching. Now, you have probably heard of method acting. Method acting is based on Stanislavski's techniques. It was the brainchild of this guy, Lee Strasberg, and many people, if you just go up to any person on the street, if they've heard of any acting technique, it probably is method acting. Well, what is method acting? So what happened is Strasberg studied with Stanislavski, went to Russia, studied with Stanislavski, and decided that, okay, Stanislavski, got it. Came back to the U.S. and taught his version of what he claimed was Stanislavski's method. Now, Stanislavski's method was all-inclusive. It included emotional work, which is what Strasberg focused on completely. It also included physical work and historical research and just general actor training. He had his actors doing yoga and learning fencing and researching the history and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff was never done before. Well, Strasberg latched on to one of Stanislavski's technique. That technique is emotional recall. That technique where you rethink, and probably relive an experience of your past that will produce the emotion that your character is supposed to feel, and therefore that is your acting technique. It took off in this country because Strasberg, he founded the Actor Studio, which you may have heard of. I won't go into the history of that. It came to this country at a time when film and television was taking off. Now, method acting can work great for film and television because you only have to get it right once. You do it hundreds of times because you're doing take after take after take to get it right, but ultimately you only have to get it right one time, hopefully. And for film and television, the audience is this close, and you can't fake it. So being, quote, real has its advantages. But mostly method acting is completely unethical and completely wrong, and I hate it. That's a rather argumentative way to sort of put things, but it's true. There are many, many reasons that I disagree with method acting. I just stumbled across a website. It was called 10 Things I Hate About Method Acting. The thing that bothers me most about it is because if you're doing method acting, you're reliving something from your past, and it's taking you out of the world of the play. If I'm reliving the death of my mother in order to cry because my wife just left me, then what is the story I'm telling? I'm telling the story of the death of my mother, not my wife leaving me. And it's also kind of, it's really unethical. You exploit your own emotions in order to play the scene, and that's just horrible. Why would you do that to yourself? Some of the most famous method actors that we know, Marlon Brando was, somebody who studied with Strasberg, but there are many other ones. We know about the guy who was in Lincoln, Daniel Day-Lewis. Made people call him Mr. President off set. That is a type of method acting. There are various degrees of method acting. But anyway, so that's method acting, emotional recall and substitution, and I think it's garbage. Okay. So later on in Stanislavski's career, so what happened, and I won't go into the story of this, but people who worked with Strasberg ended up going to Russia and studying with Stanislavski and really learning Stanislavski's method and coming back to the U.S. and going, by the way, Lee, you got it all wrong. So there was it was very contentious. Anyway, so eventually Stanislavski found out, he learned what all these people were teaching as his methods incorrectly, and he was like, whoa, dude, that is not at all what I meant. He, throughout his life, he continually was crafting his theories and rewriting his theories and adding to them. Towards the end of his life, though, which is a good way to assume that this is sort of what he thought was the best through the course of his life, the idea of psychophysical action, actors doing things based on the needs of the character, what the character is doing. So you're always doing something in order to get what your character wants. So let me just say that the type of acting that we do, that I teach, that we're going to do in this class, is definitely grounded in this, where you read a script to try to understand what your character wants and what they're doing to get what they want and to overcome their obstacles. So that's what this is. That's what we do. In every second on stage that your character is on stage or on camera or what have you, your character has a goal, and that goal is always in terms of what the character wants. There are times where I've read like a production analysis paper written by a student, and they talk about the goal of the actor. The goal was to make the audience laugh. No. The goal is what your character wants. So at every second that you're on stage, you have a goal that your character wants. There's something getting in the way of your character having a goal. And there's something that they're doing, which is an action, in order to overcome their obstacle to get what they want. Now, what was I going to say? And one of the skills that takes a while to develop, and you have to read a lot of plays and really think about it, is an extremely important skill is to learn to read a play or script and figure out the given circumstances, the goals, the obstacles, and the actions. That's a very important skill, and we practice it in this class, obviously. Now, what are the given circumstances? So, the given circumstances are the simple, unchangeable facts of the play. They come from the play. You do not create your given circumstances. You're playing Romeo, and you've decided that he loves Juliet because he really has a thing for brunettes. Sure, okay, if that's something you want to bring to it, whatever. But that is not a given circumstance of the play. So the first thing you need to do is to figure out what the given circumstance is. Now, I say here they come from the play. The playwright gives you this information. And it is not as easy as it might seem just to read any play and get all the given circumstances. You have to read it numerous times, and you have to read carefully. Given circumstances could also come from the director. So if you're doing a production of Hamlet, and if you've heard this lecture before, you've heard me give this silly example. If you're doing a production of Hamlet and your director has decided that you're going to set it on the moon and all the characters are actually monkeys, okay, that you don't have a choice in that as an actor. You have to play, where am I? I'm on the moon. Who am I? I'm a monkey. Whatever. Good luck with that show. But whatever, to not be quite so ridiculous, early in rehearsal, you often do sit around and talk about the given circumstances, and you all tell the same story. If I'm in a play and I'm divorcing my wife, I can't decide that, oh, I had an affair, and then the actor playing my wife thinks that, oh, I've always been faithful, that then we're not telling the same story. Anyway, that's part of the given circumstances. The nuts and bolts, the hard facts come from the play, the playwright, or the director, and there can obviously be room for interpretation for you as an actor, but that comes later. First, you have to figure out exactly what are the facts that I cannot change. And it's also really helpful if you define what your character does. Going through the script and literally writing out, make a list of actions, things that the character literally does. Activities, I tell my wife I love her. I get in the car and I run away. Whatever. I'm making a list of what your character literally does. Tells you a lot more about a character than what they say. Because as we know in real life, what you do says a lot more about who you are than what you say. Because people lie and characters lie. And other characters lie about other characters. So you may be thinking, Brian, what the heck? You're telling me I'm never going to feel anything. No, I'm not. A lot of what we do in this class is actually all about emotion. The warm-ups, getting rid of tension is an emotional technique. If you get out of your own way, you will feel something. And what do I mean by getting out of your own way? If you're not constantly judging yourself, if you're not holding physical tension somewhere, if you are not allowing the moment to flow through you, not allowing your body just to be a vessel and being completely present in the moment of this scene or the moment in the play, then you're not going to produce, emotions are going to happen. However, if you are present and in the moment, and if you are not thinking about 100 different thousand other things, if you're not obsessed about, oh, I'm not doing a good job, oh, my voice isn't right, oh, blah, 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 blah. If you're really in the moment, then something will happen in you. You will feel something. The only thing you can do as far as emotional work is to get out of your own way. And that there are other techniques that can help you put you in the moment, especially if you have to play a weird moment, like, you start a scene and it's the middle of an argument or something. There are things that you have to do to get there, and those will happen. We will talk about that kind of stuff. But basically, the worst thing you can do is try to generate a feeling. It'll always look fake, and the audience will always know it. And when you do it right, it feels awesome. It feels like, woohoo, I'm a movie star. So, let's talk really briefly about script analysis for actors. First of all, you have to read your play a whole lot. If you're really going to understand the character and understand the life of this play, you've got to read it many, many times, more than twice. So, the basic nuts and bolts of a play, all plays, all stories are kind of set up this way. I don't care if it's the most crazy, abstract, out of chronological order, flips back, flashbacks, whatever. You can structure a play in this way, although it might not be written this way, you can put the story together in this way. There's always a stasis. There's a situation at the beginning of the play that would go on unchanged until the intrusion or the inciting incident happens. So something happens that gets the ball rolling. And then there are a lot of complications along the way. Think of it as dominoes. So the intrusion happens and it hits something else. That's another complication. That complication happens, and because that happened, something else happened. Because that happened, something else happened. Because that happened, something else happened. This is not rocket science, and it's not all that difficult. Some plays are more difficult to analyze than others. But so think about how one thing causes another. That is the term, I should have typed the term dramatic action. Dramatic action is one character doing something that causes another character to do something in response. And it builds upon each other until you sort of get to the point of no return, where the point of no return will be an action. Something will happen. If you're into musicals, that I want song, well, not that I want song, the sort of I'm gonna do this song that's always right before the big climax. That is the point of no return. Point of no returns are sometimes difficult to find, but they're useful to find as an actor because it tells you a lot about the story. And then that leads to the climax. and the big thing happens, the highest tension, and the climax is done if the main character has either gotten what they want or they have to stop pursuing what they want. And then there's a new situation that has come about as a result of all of this stuff happening, a new stasis. Now, we can also break plays into smaller chunks. So, there's the whole play, there's an act, there are scenes, there's what have you. Some of them might be labeled and broken up officially, some might not be. But within one scene, we're going to talk, so there's the whole play, there's an act, and then there are scenes. Within a scene, you can break that down into smaller chunks. Just French scenes and beats, maybe I should have talked about beat first because they're actually smaller than French scenes, or maybe they're not so much. A French scene is whenever somebody leaves or enters. So that's just what it's called. It's called that way because classic French plays, they were always labeled with scene change numbers when somebody entered or exited. So that's what that's called. They are useful for our purposes. Now, there's also something called a beat. A beat is a unit of action. A beat is the lines, contiguous sets of lines in which a character is pursuing the same action. Does not have to be the same goal, because you can pursue a goal in many different ways. You can try to get something in many different ways, and you usually do. Usually, a beat change happens when an action changes, and one goal will have numerous beats. There's something you want, and you try it, you don't get it, so you try something else. When the action changes, the beat changes. A beat, just let me, pet peeve here, a beat has nothing to do with rhythm. It's not the beat of the scene. It's not the beat of the language. It's not the beat of a drum. A beat is a unit of action. They think that we got this from Russian the terminology, where they would talk about bits, like a B-I-T. This is the bit in this play, and with a Russian accent, it would sound like beat. Maybe. I don't know. But we call it beats. Every actor and every acting teacher and every director knows the term beats, so learn it and love it and take it with you. One really good a really good skill is to try to figure out when your beats change, and you will be doing that for the scenes in this class. Big clue is when a beat changes and whenever your character receives new information, because whenever you receive new information, you have to change what you're doing. You might also change what you want, but so that's that. We will talk about this a whole lot. Some people you may work with a director, and when they say a beat change, it will mean when their goal changes. But so the term beat, some directors or other actors might think of it more like when the mood changes or something. But that's the textbook definition is when the action changes, when you change what you're doing in order to get what you want. So for every moment that every character is online, I said they have a goal, obstacle, and an action. And it can be expressed like this. I want to blank in order to blank. I want to do something to somebody, the other character, or maybe to myself, if it's a monologue, probably, in order to get what I want. So a really silly example here is I want to seduce Bob in order to get him to marry me. So that has everything. It has your goal. You want him to marry you. It doesn't have an obstacle, though, in your verb here. Now, some acting teachers would have you literally for each beat write out exactly what am I doing and what is my obstacle. And that gets a bit boring and tedious. But you definitely need to at least have a verb for each one of your beats. What is the verb that I'm doing? So I had obstacles here too, but yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so someone. I said that. There you go. So let's just take a moment and breathe. This has been going on 24 minutes. I was hoping it'd be shorter than that, but what the heck. Let's have a little reality check here. There is a point where script analysis makes you get stuck in your head. Like I said just a moment ago, if you don't have all the stuff in your head and you're really present in the moment, you can feel emotion and what have you. Overthinking this is not a good thing. This is just the beginning. This is the prep work. This is what we do. We put some thought into things before we get up on our feet. Once you get up on your feet and you decide for example, in one beat, you decided that what you're doing is manipulating this character. But once you're in it, you're saying the words and you're interacting with your scene partner, and that just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like I'm manipulating. It feels like I'm supporting them. Then great. That's what you do. But you've got to have a place to start, and that's what this is. So don't get caught up into your thinking, oh God, I hate acting. This is no. This is just the prep work. Don't get obsessed with it. It is a means to an end. This is not an assignment or other academic garbage, although it is an assignment in this class. But this is just the beginning. At the end of the day, whatever feels right when you are alive and in the moment, that is right. That's what you do. Okay, so back at it. All verbs are not created equal. When you think of, I want to blank, blank in order to blank, that verb that goes in there, a verb should always be, and verbs always directly apply to overcome the obstacle. Let me clarify that. The verbs that you pick, they're really technically not to get what you want. They're to overcome what's getting in your way. Let me add, I didn't add in there when I was talking about obstacles. Obstacles are the essence of drama. If there is no conflict, there is no drama. So it's really important for you to figure out what is the conflict, what is the obstacle for your character in each moment, in each beat. It won't change from beat to beat. What you will do to overcome it will. Now, some people, let me just add here that some people, just the terms verbs and actions can, for our purposes, are interchangeable. I played around a lot with, trying to create an action phrase that includes a goal and an obstacle, and it's just too much work, and it's too academic, and it gets you in your head. It doesn't lead to good acting. So just a simple one-word verb is just fine for me. So all verbs are not created equal. A verb is not an activity. It should have an emotional weight to it. The actress thesaurus that I've loaded up into Moodle is your friend. Use it a lot. So think about the slap as an activity. But if I'm slapping you, what am I really doing? I'm attacking you, or maybe I'm belittling you, or fill in the blank. A good verb can fit in the little phrase, I blank you. Now, yes, I slap you. Well, that fits. But the I blank you is just a really good way to make sure it is a verb. But yeah, so that's a good one to throw out before you get to the thesaurus, or maybe when you're doing this thesaurus. Just an example of some really good verbs: seduce, attack, convince, persuade. At the end of the day, every verb that every character plays in every play or movie or whatever is always persuade. Blame, wrangle, encourage, test, welcome, calm, comfort, pacify. You can read the rest of these. These are good examples of verbs. The actress thesaurus is your friend. So use it. So one play has numerous beats with goals, obstacles, and actions for each. The super objective is an overarching goal for the entire play. Think, what does your character want out of life? This is going to be a bit more abstract, possibly. There's an example of, I'll give a super quick example of Blanche in Streetcar Named Desire. If you don't know this play, read it right now. It's one of the most important plays ever written, and everybody knows it. She wants, what does she want? She wants to be, so Blanche throughout the play, she is always trying to get someone to save her from ruin, So she wants to be rescued. That's what she wants. She tries to get this guy to marry her. She tries to convince her sister that she didn't cheat her out of their plantation was sold. Your former plantation, it's set in the middle 20th century, yeah. But anyway, so that's just one example. So the super objective is something that each moment in the play, each beat supports that somehow. So just something to think about, and you're going to need to define super objective properly at some point. Just a quick note, monologues and sonnets probably have just one goal, and they maybe have 2 or 4 verbs. 4 would be a lot. So just a note about that. So acting is nothing more than playing an action within the specific given circumstances of each moment. That's all there is to it. Now, in order to perform this task, it often takes years of training vocally, physically, intellectually, and emotional. If this was easy, we'd all be movie stars. So if you're saying, what the heck is all this? That's fine. If all you get out of this lecture is understanding what those most important concepts are, given circumstances, goals, obstacle, and actions, then you've gotten what you need to get. And if you understand a little bit about how plays work, that's good too. Living believably within imaginary circumstances. I adore this phrase. It's what I'm trying to teach you. It's what all actors are always trying to do. So believably, we know when acting is not believable. Any audience, anybody can pick out bad acting. And the actor is completely invested in the imaginary circumstances, which are the given circumstances of the story. Your job as an actor is to tell a story. It is not to feel anything. And in order to tell that story, you've got to be doing what the playwright has given you. There are many different interpretations to every character. How many Hamlets are there? Every actor playing Hamlet is going to play it differently and bring something new and beautiful to it. However, you have to understand the story that you are telling in order to do that. So, if you're confused, that's okay. That's why you're in a class. That's why we study this stuff. If this was easy, we would all be movie stars. So that's that. Bye.